Well, this has been a whirlwind season of Survivor so far. Game changers, massive shocks, some of the biggest tribal councils in Survivor history. We here at Gold Derby are here to break down the biggest shocks and the biggest moments from the past season. I'm Matt Noble, joined here by Marcus Dixon. Marcus, you've got your Tavua buff on, the Green Tribe. Obviously, giving them some luck because they haven't had to go to tribal once.
Yeah, those people are so tight right now. We don't even know who's an enemy on that tribe. That's the tribe with Troyzan and Sarah, who I guess are starting to build an alliance. And then you have Suri and Ozzy and Andrea, and I forget the other person. But we've seen so little of them because they keep winning everything.
Yeah, so we might touch on them a little bit later, but we don't want to bury the lead in light of yesterday's big episode and the episode before, really. We're going to start off today by talking about JT's blunders. JT's big blunders. It was 2 weeks of blunders for JT, really. Marcus, do you want to break down where did JT go? What was JT's biggest mistake of the past 2 weeks?
I think JT is he's a good old boy. He's trying to be friends with everyone, and that doesn't work on Survivor. When he whispered to Brad Culpepper, "Hey man, you're safe, we're voting for Sierra," he didn't have to do that. He just wanted Brad to know, "Hey man, you're safe, like I'm your buddy," right? Isn't this what got him kind of kicked off of Heroes versus Villains when he passed that note to Russell? It's like he's trying to be friends with everyone, and that's mistake number one. And mistake number two, he did not bring his hidden immunity idol to tribal council. I mean, I would get, bringing it and not using it. He didn't even bring it. He thought he was completely safe.
Yeah, this is I agree. That's the big sort of sin of JT over the past 2 weeks. Giving Russell the idol in Heroes vs. Villains. You're going for some big risky play that may be stupid, but he's trying to do something with that. Going whispering in Brad's ear, trying to build up trust with Brad, a really bad thing to do, but still something where you got some level of awareness. Not bringing the idol makes no sense. There is no reason not to bring the idol to tribal council for a couple of reasons. One, it's never a good thing to do. But two, JT's position. He was down in the numbers on that tribe. He's the only person from his original tribe. So you'd think every week he'd at least have to feel a little bit of danger if they go back with their old tribes. And secondly, after last week's pandemonium, that adds even more of a target on JT's back. I don't know. And it's almost like in JT's position, the more confident someone in his position gets that was being questioned after the last tribal, who was down in the numbers anyway, the more comfortable I would get if I was JT, the less comfortable I would feel because I'm going, are they wanting me to feel comfortable?
Right. And
it's bizarre.
By not bringing the idol, it really showed how I don't want to be mean, but how dumb he is as a Survivor winner. Of all the Survivor winners, he's not one of the smartest ones. Because yes, everyone at camp saying, we're going to get out Michaela, we're going to get out Michaela. So if it was me, my first thought would be, number one, they're lying to me. Or number two, even if they're telling the truth, something could happen at tribal council. Something could happen. I could say something that puts the target on me, and if I don't have the idol in my pocket, I can't use it. I can't get over the fact that he didn't bring it with him.
Yeah, that's bizarre. I would also, with your question of is JT one of the dumbest winners inside history, he played such a flawless game in Tocantins that he was able to build great social credibility. He was in control with Steven of every single vote. And at the end of the season, he gave one of the greatest final tribals of all time where he threw his buddy Steven under the bus. I think he was a great winner of his season that he won. And both times he's returned, I've been really excited for him to come back. In Heroes vs. Villains, he handed off the idol to Russell, and that sort of blew up in his face. It was a bad move, but I was happy to give him sort of some benefit of the doubt that he sort of was trying to get something big happening. I don't know how, after seeing him in Game Changers, you can give him any benefit of the doubt now. I was excited for him to redeem himself from that idol play, to find an idol again, to not play it again in a disastrous fashion, to be sort of, and we're going to talk about Sandra in a minute, but for Sandra to have her mark, she really had her mark, JT, and she executed brilliantly. And it was, as Tony said in episode 2, like leading lambs to the slaughter. But yeah, so the one other thing I'd say with JT's game is Sierra telling Brad that they were putting all their votes on Sierra. To me, I don't understand that either. To tell him, hey, I want you to vote for Sandra, I'll flip and vote with you guys for Sandra, that makes sense. Yeah. But to tell him to risk an idol being played on the person is going home. So JT, a disaster. And just quickly, Marcus, because we didn't talk about this last week, how do you feel about the Malcolm boot last week? I heard it thrown around that it was like the red wedding of Survivor.
I heard that too. It was very, very shocking, but I will say I'm a diehard Sandra supporter, Queen Sandra. So when Jeff pulled over, first he pulled up those 6 Sierra votes, right? Yeah. And I'm like, well, the 7th vote is going to be Sandra, like R.I.P. Sandra. And it was Malcolm. I may have let out a cheer of joy because Sandra was not the target.
My.
But Malcolm, that's not a good way to go out for Malcolm. He really wanted this, and that was heartbreaking for him and his fans. I could understand why they're upset. But as a Sandra fan, that was a great scene for me.
Yeah, like Sandra fans breathing a sigh of relief, but Malcolm, this hero, one of the most popular players on Survivor, to go out in that fashion was heartbreaking and shocking. And I was in a room full of people in Sydney all watching this, and the reactions in the room were huge. Mm-hmm. But what a compelling episode. Like, and I think this is why it's like the Game of Thrones Red Wedding, is that you just cannot believe what you're watching, and to see someone go out in such sort of unfair, brutal fashion on Survivor was like sort of unbelievable. And boy, for JT not to be able to not only sink Malcolm's game, but not be able to recover his, what a disaster for JT.
Right.
And boy,
great Sandra, 2 weeks in a row. Is she lucky, or is she just that good?
I think she was a little lucky with the Malcolm vote. I don't think she had much control where they were throwing their votes that week. But boy, look, to be honest, Haley, to a degree, was the one wanting to get rid of Malcolm that week. And Haley was the one wanting to get rid of Malcolm that week on that tribe, saying we need to get rid of the physical threats. Seems like she went over and whispered to Sandra in that whole bedlam that broke out. Maybe she was sort of protecting Sandra there a bit because of the relationship Sandra had built with Haley. So probably a bit lucky that week, but it seems like the Tony votes, where she got rid of Tony, and this week's vote, she was very much in control, and it wasn't sort of luck. It was her running the game well. Which brings us to our next topic. Can the Queen stay Queen, Marcus? Is Sandra your winner's pick at the moment, or is she just the person you want to win?
She's both.
Okay. Explain it so she can stay Queen. She did amazing with the Tony vote. She did amazing this week. Break it down for us.
Yeah, I really, really want her to win. And right now I'm voting for her to win because she has avoided – there's been 5 eliminations. I think she's been at 4 of those 5 tribal councils. So she goes into Survivor with the biggest target on her back in the history of Survivor. She's the only 2-time winner. I thought she'd be out first, and then I thought she'd be out second, and then I thought she'd be out third. She's still there. She's never had a vote against her either this season. That is absolutely insane. Can she stay the Queen? Can she actually win? I don't think so. I think she doesn't have that many allies left. She has Jeff Varner. She has Michaela Bradshaw. Who else? Who else does she have in her pocket? I don't think a lot of people. When I talked to Malcolm after his elimination, he told me that Sandra and Aubrey fight a lot at camp, and they haven't showed that on screen. But when Aubrey and Sandra did not agree on the vote last night, that kind of was a red flag to me that, oh, Malcolm was right. These 2 ladies aren't getting along. So who does Sandra have in her back?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't just they disagreed. Sandra left Aubrey out of that plan.
Right.
Aubrey was as surprised as JT. with that vote. So Sandra's definitely not working with Aubrey, and I think she does lose Aubrey. You do have Troyzan and Haley on the other tribes that were part of Sandra's alliance that got rid of King Tony. And
right. So our next section we'll be talking about the tribe switch. So maybe something there will help her.
Yeah.
But can she?
I feel like she's got 4 allies in the game, so she's got maybe a group of 5 if she can pull them all together.
Right, and there's 50 people left, so I don't know if that's enough to keep her. I mean, in her group of 5, let's say she has those 5, she will probably be first out, right?
She'll be the biggest target, I would say, of the other group gunning for these guys. So yeah, she's gonna need to somehow get the numbers. If let's say they merge next episode, which they're not doing, I'm pretty sure. Well, they could. Who knows with what the trailer gave away? But I think Sandra would be the first target of the other group. So she needs to somehow get the numbers. And I think Sandra's playing a very different game. She's changed her game from the past, where she had a very much anyone but me, I'll just go with the flow, and playing a very under the radar game. She's come into this game and she's playing a very, she's dominating. She's saying stuff at Tribe like, I know I'm not going home. The queen stays queen. Get your ass out of here. Like, she's always been quite blunt with people. She's always been sort of unpolished, but she's really just taking on this queen title and like playing the most dominant game we've ever seen Sandra play. Is it one that can win her the game? Because she's like, it's almost like, why fix a clock that isn't broken? She
is a bit arrogant. She's making more enemies this time, just among the fans. There are a lot more people that aren't enjoying her this time around. And the scene with the goats, where she really wanted to kill the mother and the child goat, that did not win her any extra fans for sure. And
I would say that in some ways, maybe she came into the season knowing I can't pretend not to be a big target this season. I've won 2 from 2. She's arguably the greatest player of all time. And maybe she just thought, I've got to own this rather than try to pretend I'm not a threat. So right. I love how she's playing. Yesterday, setting up JT as the mark was beautiful. Getting those 5 people against Tony to take him out. He's one of the great winners of all time of Survivor. She's taken out 2 winners already. She's and I do like this episode, how she got Varna and Michaela. It looks like she's starting to get a group of 3 that's really comfortable with her, and that can take you far in the game. I just am worried that Sandra's peaking too early and making herself too big of a target too early in a season where there are a lot of targets.
She'll probably be gone within the next 3 episodes.
Yeah, she could be the merge boot too. I could see her being people like, we've got to take out Sandra now. We can't let her get to the end, which usually the merge boot's a big challenge threat. But it could be different this season. Let's quickly. Well, sorry, Mark.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to move on to the switch because you've got about 5 or so minutes left, 5-10 minutes. So, a switch in time. It looks we've had 1 switch already this season, which definitely hurt people like JT. Definitely hurt Malcolm there, and hurt Caleb. 3 players who probably weren't going anywhere if there hadn't been a switch. It looks like next week in the ad, Jeff says, drop your buffs. Marcus, do you want to talk us through either a big moment from the past switch or what you think could be a big moment in the upcoming switch?
This is my theory. So there's 15 people left. I think they're going to, I have no spoilers, no knowledge whatsoever. I think they're going to split it. 1 group of 7 and 1 group of 7, that's 14. The 15th person that draws a black rock or a white rock or whatever is going to go to Exile Island for the night, and then they're going to come back. Whichever tribe loses, they're going to kick someone out, and the Exile Island person will come back and join that tribe. That's my big theory.
Yeah, I think that's a really good theory. Jeff mentioned Exile Island in the promo as well. Going back to a 2-tribe format could be really good for people who have been on the bottom of their tribes. It might mean Troyzan won't need to play his idol and can hold on to that. It might mean that Haley, who sort of could argue is on the outs of that group, although with Debbie, Debbie could have changed that pecking order a little bit, but it's going to help people that are on the bottom. Aubrey, I think, is probably the biggest winner from this because she is clearly on the outs of her group. It's a very weak group challenge. You'd sort of have to go with a switch coming next week from Aubrey being the most likely to go home to someone who could now win the game if she gets with the right group of people.
Right. I would agree with that. Aubrey was probably next to go if Tavua lost again, but now this is great news for Aubrey now that everything's going to be mixed up again.
Yeah. So that's really good. From the last switch, Marcus, what do you think was the biggest sort of, other than the Malcolm JT dramas from the other two tribes, whose game do you think was helped or hurt more from that tribe switch?
That's a good question. Who was helped or hurt? I mean, I keep going back to Troyzan. He was in the numbers on his original tribe. Then he's all of a sudden 1 against 5 on his new Tavua tribe, and he finds that idol. I don't think he had the urgency to find an idol until that happened, and because of that, he has an idol now, and that's going to make him really powerful going forward.
Yeah, no, I think giving Troyzan an opportunity to find an idol was probably a huge thing. I would say Brad Culpepper really came into his own, and I said Sandra has changed her game as much as anyone this season. I think Brad Culpepper's inarguably changed his game the better, changed the game for the most better. Oh, what was I going to say? From the most better from the last time he played, I guess. The most improved game change has been Brad Culpepper, who has really established himself really well in that group because of that tribe. He ended up with people like Ty, people like Sierra, people he obviously communicates with well and stuff. Debbie aside.
People are saying Brad, Ty, and Sierra, that really tight group of 3, that they could be the final 3 of the season. Yes,
which our next topic was going to be Brad's business. And that, John, who was meant to join us for the chat today, said that that was his 3 that he thinks is the tightest 3 in the game and could be the 3 at the end. Do you agree with that, Marcus?
They're looking pretty good, especially with Ty finding that idol and using it on Sierra correctly, and then finding a clue to another one, which kind of brings up the question, are there too many idols this season? I just feel like everyone's finding idols.
Brings us to our next topic. I think that is a good final 3 pick. I also think the stage was set this episode for a Sandra, Michaela, Varna final 3, but I just feel like Brad's more likely to get the numbers than Sandra is for her group. So
and Brad's less of a threat. Sandra's way more of a threat. I don't think she'll make it to the end, even though I'm predicting her to win.
The switch definitely allowed those 2 people to get those groups of 3 together, though. So now we've got idol play. Marcus, you think there are too many idols this season? I think there's too many, but I was confused how the first one was hit at a challenge and all the other ones have been hidden at camp.
Yeah, it's just is there one at every challenge, just in case someone randomly finds it, or do you have to find a clue? And sometimes
you have to find a clue. I think you have to find a clue.
Right. So if no one finds a clue, then there won't be one at the challenge.
Hide the clue. So I think that was the only puzzle board, the one Troyzan found. Yeah. How do you feel about, like we talked about, JT obviously played his idol wrong, and we've talked about that.
Right.
How have you liked Troyzan not telling people about his idol? And even when Sarah, somebody's trying to build an alliance and goes, hey, I'm going to look for the idol now. And so what do you think of Troyzan's idol play so far?
It's a good move. I mean, he had, as long as his tribe keeps winning, he doesn't need to tell anyone. Of course, there's going to be a switch next week. But you know what? I think if he switches into a tribe with Sandra and some of the people he originally played with, he may tell 1 or 2 of them about his idol. But I like that he hasn't told anyone yet. He hasn't had a need to yet.
I like that too. I think he's played it well. Sometimes you can use information about how to build an alliance, but I don't think without having lost a challenge, I don't think Troyzan needs to do that. And there is something to be said for no one knowing. It means it's more easy for you to be able to play it when they vote you out, because they'll be less careful about keeping that information from you, and then you can sort of pick the person you want to go home. Ty, do you think he played the idol well by playing it for Sierra? Like Gut says yes, but did he need Sierra in the game? He could be sitting there with an idol now.
I think a strong final 3 is more important, especially, is anyone going to vote for Sierra to win? I don't know. She hasn't really done anything yet. If it's her, Ty, and Brad, I can see Ty getting a lot of votes. I can see Brad getting votes, but
Marcus, you're so right. I cannot see Ty getting
Oh,
votes.
really?
How many did he get last time he made it to the end, Marcus?
Not a lot.
A goose egg. And he seems so like easily, like I don't think anyone's going to be giving Ty credit. Like, you know, especially if he's in into those two, Brad's going to be the guy who's making all the moves and built the strong relationships. Ty just seems so waffle. Seems like he just follows what people tell him to do. I don't think Ty is the player that gets credit for moves. And I don't think he like deserves it, to be honest. Like, I think Ty's good at doing some things, like finding idols. He's good at sort of, I just don't see him as a great player of the game. And I feel like we're sort of seeing similar to what we saw in Co Wrong, where he's getting swayed by other people a lot, and it's sort of like being manipulated easily, and sort of, again, playing his idol for Sierra, I think was the right move, but I think he almost like was very much handing his trust over to like Brad for that move. He like turned to Brad, and Brad's like, do it.
I think voting out Caleb was a good move for him.
Yeah. Here we go, Marcus. This is what I'm going to tell you. If it's Sierra, Brad, and Ty in the final three, Ty will definitely Sierra will do no worse than Ty. I would guess she would get more votes, but there's a chance neither of them get any.
Well, before we go, do you want to talk about
yes, the Gold Derby predictions? We've got a Gold Derby prediction center at goldderby.com. You can predict who you think is going to win this season, who you think is going to get voted out. Marcus, you help run that prediction center. Tell us what the sort of most interesting thing is from it.
Malcolm was our pick to win. And,
we picked Adam last season, though. And we were like the only website. I was speaking to the winner of Millennials vs. Gen X last week, and he said, Gold Derby, you were the only guys who were predicting me all season long to win. So wrong this year, but right. We have been right in the past.
Right, and as soon as that person that we were predicting goes home, then our users, you know, you can still keep predicting, and right now our users are picking Sarah. So I like that prediction. She's kind of under the radar, but again, she keeps winning, so we haven't seen her gameplay. But she is very, very adamant this season about she's gonna play like a criminal. And I can't wait to see what that means. I don't know what that means. She's gonna lie, I guess. We haven't seen it yet, but I think it's gonna happen pretty soon.
If she doesn't backstab someone this season, it's gonna be a lot of talk about playing like a criminal without much results. So I hope she does.
If she could dig in people's bags and steal idols from bags and like steal,
she did that would be cool. Yeah. Who do we have predicted to go home next, Marcus?
We have Sandra, but you know what? Sandra has been our elimination pick most of the weeks.
Look, Sandra is someone running her tribe. She's clearly wouldn't be getting voted out next week. I don't think it'd be Aubrey going home if there was no switch. And we do see when switches happen, people running their tribes can get taken out. Like if Brad Culpepper gets a bad draw, he's sort of so in control over there. Who knows if he doesn't get taken out next?
And in second place to go home is Debbie. And Debbie, wow, what a fun episode that was for Debbie.
She I don't even know this is very rare in Survivor. They'll play a replay from earlier in the episode to show that someone's wrong. And she said, it always has to be Brad's way. Then it cut to the challenge where she goes, I'm good at balance beams. I think that's where I should be. And Brad goes, oh, if you think that, then yeah, do it.
As soon as they showed us the different huddles of because Jeff says every challenge, you know, huddle up and what's the word? Determine your strategy or whatever. We never see that. The fact that we actually saw that.
I'll give you a minute to strategize. Yeah.
That's what it says. Yes. The fact that we finally saw that, I'm like, okay, something's gonna happen. I'm paying attention, like what's gonna happen. And it was
I'm watching Zeke said he does slide puzzles on his phone. I was very confident they got there first. Is he gonna blow it for his tribe? And he didn't. And I thought, okay, well Debbie said she was good at balancing. It looks like she might be the setup there. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, Go to Gold Derby and make your predictions. You can do it all season long.
Yeah. We're going to try and do one of these slugfests every week now. We're really hitting the business end of the season now. We've sort of got our first 5 boots. And if not, we'll do it every fortnight or whatever. But we'll try to schedule one of these once a week, get some other Gold Derby contributors in. And, yeah. Thanks for talking Survivor, Marcus.
Yes, it's a really good season. One of the best.
Yeah, it's really good. Okay.